This is really great.
Okay.
All right.
Should we get started and then
Yeah,
whoever
sure.
comes?
Sure.
Oh, how about we start by talking about the way we each commemorated this first day of March Mindfulness? Would you like to go first?
I just do, look, I always, bang the same drum. I wake up, I do my usual thing. I do my breath exercises and I do my meditations. So how did you, we haven't really checked in on this too much. How did you do your first day celebration?
You want to know for real?
Yeah. I've
So
been up here
on this first day of March Mindfulness, I missed a meeting.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And then I ate Ready Whip off of a spoon over the sink for dinner.
Oh.
But I really did pay attention to every nuanced flavor that I was getting. So yeah, I think I may have failed my first day of March Mindfulness.
All right, so
I've got plenty of others though. Are there
clearly,
31 days? 31 days in March?
30 days has September, April. Yes, 31 days.
Okay, so I've got 30 more days to make up for it.
All right, so clearly we aren't perfect here, but
that's for darn sure.
All right, but look, we have been practicing this stuff for a long time.
Yes.
So I think we're just going to use this month. We're going to be here every Monday, and we're going to post this stuff. Hopefully, if it works, we're going to post this stuff also into our feed. So if people have to drop off or whatever, it's fine. We're going to post this into the feed. But this month, every Monday, we're going to be talking about, hi, Kate. Hi, Anne. We're going to be talking about what we're doing for mindfulness. Hi, Jen. Hi, Jenny. I'm waving. So we're going to be talking about our journey through mindfulness. It's going to be a dialogue between all of us, hopefully. And so we're going to start right now.
Yay.
Talking about mindfulness.
Well, how long have you been doing it? Since clearly I've already established that I'm a little, in terms of the perfection line of mindfulness, I'm like not even close. Because for those who just got on, we talked about how I commemorated my first day by missing an afternoon meeting. Kate knows what I'm talking about. And I ate Ready Whip for dinner. So... But we do have some things that we can share. I mean, J.A., how long have you been practicing this, would you say?
Let's see, how much? One for each. I don't know, over 20 years.
One for each gray hair, yeah. Okay. And then I've been doing this at least 10 years or so. I didn't know I was doing it for the first 7, but it's been a while. So I guess, we want to share our experience in the hopes that it may help somebody else out there. That's what we're here for. So J.A., do you want to, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, everybody's doing it. I like your point about, even eating Ready Whip over the sink, paying attention to how it tastes. That's doing it too. All my years of working with clients, out there, I remember, telling people you're doing it, even though you don't know you're doing it.
That's right.
So, people always ask me when I'm doing a training, say, I'll ask them, I'll say, how do you define mindfulness? And what I get back is a whole variety of answers. And so, there's this official definition that is out there it's from Berkeley. There's this place called Greater Good at Berkeley. It's a great place. And they say that mindfulness is this moment by moment awareness of our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations and our environment through a gentle, nurturing lens, right? So it's all about acceptance and being present and not judging things as right or wrong, this and that. And, that's a nice official definition, but then I get people who just say it's drinking a cup of coffee with full attention. So it's really just about simple awareness, right?
Yeah, I like that one. I mean, that's certainly that, should I start with my story? Because that kind of leads into, I never really knew what mindfulness was. And even today I hear the word and, I just look at it as being aware. So my mindfulness journey started when I was about to go through a divorce. So that was almost 8 years ago. And it was about to happen. It hadn't happened yet. And I was, obviously feeling like something was going to change. And I went to this gym. That was my outlet. And I saw a little flyer with the tabs on the wall for a yoga class. And right. I had no idea what yoga was. And in fact, I was super nervous about starting yoga because I was like, am I going to have to chant? Are they going to make me do things? Am I going to experience something? But I decided to get out of my own way and I tried the yoga class. So I went my first day. I was like a total noob. I wore my socks, but not just like cool socks. I wore like my crew socks.
Yes.
And then I tucked myself back in the corner where all the shoes were, because I didn't want to be seen or heard or anything. And it was like I was so uncomfortable until this teacher, so she had no idea that I was going through this thing, and she taught her class, and the first thing she had us do was to check in. And she said, "How do you feel?" So of course, in the beginning, I was nervous. I was scared. Am I going to break something? Am I going to hurt somebody else? Because there have been times in exercise classes where I've come close. So we checked in, and I was like, okay, I'm still nervous, whatever. And then she asked us to check in again at the end of the class. And I had gone through the class. I thought it was pretty cool. It was hard. I couldn't do most things. But I did notice I felt different afterward, if only for the simple reason, like, hey, I just did something new. That was really cool. So that simple act of checking in made me aware of what I was feeling, what I was thinking. And I took that home with me because I thought, like, that was really cool. She asked 2 different times about 45 minutes apart, and I had 2 different answers.
Right.
So I took it home. And before long, I was changing the way I ate because I would feel different. If I ate something that didn't agree with me, I would check in before I ate, and I would check in after I ate. And that led to small changes in my diet. Then the divorce happened, and this whole check-in thing became more important than ever. I'd have aches and pains. My jaw would hurt, and I would become aware of when it was hurting, and I was stressed because I was clenching. So I started to realize, oh my gosh, my jaw. I would wake up in the morning really sore and tense, and I would think, oh, I need a new bed, I need a new pillow. But when I really sat with it and thought about where it was coming from, I realized my dreams were so vivid. You know, when you're stressed out, sometimes your dreams kind of go crazy.
Uh-huh.
I was so tense that I'd wake up in the morning sore just from that alone. So it just became this practice that I was not even truly conscious of it being any sort of practice, but it was checking in. How do I feel? And then it helped me learn about myself and learn about my other habits and what were they causing, what was happening. And then eventually this whole check-in thing became a habit in and of itself. Yeah. And that's not to say that it made it so that I always felt good because I was always checking in. No, like I was feel lousy. I'd still eat, you know, the junk food I wasn't supposed to eat, but at least I was aware of it. I do that today. I still do that. I did that yesterday. I had pizza like for 3 meals that day.
Nothing wrong with that.
You know, did I feel great? No, but at least I was aware of it. So that was my story. I didn't even know it was called mindfulness. And according to some people, that may not even be what they consider mindfulness, but that's what I consider mindfulness.
Simple awareness.
Simple awareness.
That's right.
But your story is super interesting. Tell them about your experience.
Well, I just want to say, Melissa and I just celebrated our 6th anniversary. So I think it's time for you to unveil the cool socks that you talked about. You said you have cool socks somewhere that you wore to yoga. I want to see the cool socks, okay?
You've seen the cool socks. You know, the ones with all the holes where like all my toes are sticking out? Yeah. That would be them.
Rebecca just told us pizza helps, and she's absolutely 100% right. It's hard not to feel good about your life when you're eating pizza. Mm-hmm. My story is a little more, I don't know, it's a little more
It's more profound.
Well,
I think
not
it's more
really. No, I don't know if I'd do that. It's just different.
Yeah.
Some of you may have heard this before. I know that there's, people may be sick of hearing this story, but it's one that I tell all the time, and it's had such a profound. It saved my life. I know I say all the time, mindfulness changed my life, but really saved my life. And so years ago, as some people remember, I graduated law school and I was just completely sick. I was making myself absolutely sick in my 20s. I don't really remember a time in my life I wasn't anxious, right? I was just sick with that for a long time. And so I didn't know what to do. And I had a teacher at the time who used to, he used to meet with us once a year. He'd give you, he'd say, you have the ear of God, that was just his way of saying, you can come and have this really intentional conversation. It was wonderful.
No pressure.
No pressure, but it was a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful situation. So I went in for mine, and I was so sick at the time. And I went, I didn't even know what to ask. Your mind, you're sitting there and you have this great moment coming up, and then your mind just blanks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, I said, Isaac, I don't really know what to ask. And he said, just ask anything. I said, all right, so should I continue to be a lawyer? And of course, the reason I asked that is because it was making me sick. I was so worried and sickened by this. I was blaming everything on that. So he says to me, he says, what you do for a living, he says, it doesn't define you. He said, it's only work. He says, I'm going to have the universe bring you that message. So, fine, great. It's only work. So I went back to my apartment, went back to the anxiety, back to the, back to launching myself into the future with this craziness, back to launching myself into the past. So a few days later, my dad calls me out of nowhere. And he says, hey, he says, I'm home alone here. And I'm like, yeah. He said, a man's voice just spoke to me and said, call your son and tell him it's only work. He said, does that mean anything to you? He goes, I don't know what that means. And for the first time in a long, long, long time, I was basically pressed into the moment. I was completely present. I mean, that's what it was going to take for me, right? That's what it was going to take for me. And so I was totally, completely 100% in the moment. And I realized in that moment that I was never here.
Yeah.
I was either there or there, but I was never here. And so I dove into, people know my background as a religious studies scholar and whatever. I've been studying with you. So I dove back into all that stuff. And I said, what can I find in here that can help me get over this horrible, crushing feelings that I'm having? It threw me into that. And I kept finding mindfulness. And the first practice Isaac ever taught me that I really kind of glossed over was a simple technique. And I basically unearthed that technique and started using it. Yeah. And, it doesn't cure. I mean, I wasn't cured that night, but I've been practicing these things diligently over decades. And it all started with one simple tool. And it was my wake-up call.
Yeah. Okay. So what was that one simple tool?
Well, when I first met him, I mean, he knew I was never here. I know he could just see that. So he tried to give me things that I could do. And he said, can you sit? And I said, yeah, I can sit. And he said, can you stare at a wall? Yeah, I could stare at a wall. He said, can you breathe? Yes. He said, sit down, stare at a wall, and start breathing. He said, put your full attention now on your breath. And he said, anytime your attention strays off your breath, gently bring it back. Now, this is a very powerful, popular tool, right? That I didn't know at the time he was teaching me mindfulness meditation. I did not know. And so I started to practice that. I sat, I stared at the wall, I stared at the floor, I breathed. My attention strays. It still strays 20 some years later. But it's the discipline of showing up that made all the difference. And that's why your story is so powerful. The discipline of creating awareness is really what transforms our lives.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people, when they think about mindfulness, they think about meditation and having to sit and be quiet. And I don't know, if you have a job or you have kids or you live with people, I mean, that can be hard to do, right? So you
end up in a sink eating Ready Whip, right? That's right.
I don't know. It's not so bad. But so what do you have to say to people who view this as like a really deep, needing quiet, needing a retreat? What do you say to people who feel that way and they're intimidated to get into that? What advice do you have?
I see Sherry just said the discipline of showing up. She just taught that to someone 30 minutes ago. And
wow.
Sherry's a good friend of ours, and she does some really amazing work, Sherry Dunleavy. And it's, what do I say to people? It's simple. You don't have to sit. Look, Melissa and I haven't had a vacation, just like many people, right, in years. I think our honeymoon was our last vacation. So we don't have that option necessarily of just jetting off somewhere and going to a mountaintop. So for us, it takes place. I always say to people, do you know what warm feels like? And they'll say, well, how is that mindful? I said, when you wash a dish, next time you wash a dish, feel the water on your hands. Feel what warm feels like. We all think, oh, we'll turn on the warm water. Do you know what warm feels like? Do you know when you bite into an apple there's an experience of eating an apple. We just crunch through do you know what crunchy is? Do you know what, with our daughter, I always say, do you want some crispy apple? I try to teach her the property of a thing so that when she engages in it, she pays attention to that property. So when I offer her crispy apple,
yeah,
she knows that it's supposed to have the sensation of crispiness or sweetness. So it's the discipline of doing what's in front of you right now. And Rebecca just said she likes the 1 minute breathing into a tree trunk that she taught me. Melissa and I have some mentors in our lives, Michael and Raphael Tamora. They have a show called Living the Miracle. And he has a very powerful grounding technique. If you listen to that, he'll repeat it. And Rebecca and I talked about that. So, I mean, what do you think, Melissa? I mean, what is your go-to?
Well, first I want to say that now our daughter will forever refer to apple as crispy apple.
Crispy sweet apple, that's right.
And crunchy cereal.
Crunchy cereal.
That'll be fun to hear about in kindergarten.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. To me, my one simple mindfulness tool that I wanted to share, because this is how I operate. If you've got teeth, and you plan to brush them tonight, as most of us do, unless you're so into this COVID quarantine thing that you've truly given up everything. But hopefully you're still brushing your teeth. Focus on brushing your teeth. So I do that. I've got an electric toothbrush that does all the work for me, but I still find myself whoop whoop. Some nights it's like ridiculous. So I look in the mirror when I'm doing my teeth now, and I've got a 2-minute timer on that thing, right? So it's literally 2 minutes of mindfulness that I'm building into something I have to do anyway. So I focus on brushing each tooth, getting the whole tooth all the way around. And usually when I do that, the time goes by like super fast. When I'm not paying attention and I'm thinking about, putting her daughter to bed or whatever, I'm always like, when is this timer going to go off?
Yeah.
I have other things to do. But when I'm fully paying attention to my teeth, it's like, whoa, I'm done already.
That's right.
So it's like mindfulness and better oral hygiene.
That's right.
You get a 2 for 1.
In my master's, in my comparative religion program, I had a friend in there, and she said to me, some days you just want brushing your teeth to be brushing your teeth. And I didn't appreciate what she was saying until that was 22 years ago. And Jenny, I love it. I talk about this numerous times a day. Yes. And we listen. But
yes.
My friend said that to me, and I realized she was talking about the power of mindfulness. And she was saying it sort of in a different context of our conversation. It had a little more difficult connotation. But when I flip it into the mindfulness context, that's really what it means. Once you start practicing these disciplines, brushing your teeth isn't just brushing your teeth. It's an opportunity to brush your teeth.
That's right.
And so this isn't leading us to perfection. It's leading us to presence and awareness. That's really the best I think we can do until my teacher used to say, unless you have the teacher that touches you here and you're spontaneously enlightened, you got to find another way. So this is how we do it.
Well, whether your goal is enlightenment or just to live a happier, more fulfilling life, I mean, that's why we do this, right? So we could talk about mindfulness, and mindfulness is good and whatever. Why are we really doing this? Why do we care? Why can't we just float through the day and not really pay attention? The quality of at least from my perspective, the quality of my relationships have gotten better or different, changed entirely.
Right.
Because no longer am I just participating in a relationship. I am thinking about what I say and my body language and my energy. I mean, this thing goes far beyond just what tooth am I brushing. This is like you start to become aware, and then you realize that we've got multi-dimensions here. And like energy, you can start to really feel that, and that makes a huge difference when you start to become aware of everything else around. So it's like an exciting new chapter to dive into mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. You don't even have to call it mindfulness, but becoming aware and looking at every little thing, it can be really fulfilling. It's
true. And we have a question here. It says, would you say that mindfulness and awareness can be zoning out? I love that. Like that allowing yourself to zone out could be mindful. Now there's a double edge there. I wouldn't necessarily say zoning out is, but you see, the question has the answer right in it. Allowing yourself to zone out. So if you take a conscious moment, if that's the way you can get in touch, set that intention. Say, I'm going to zone out, and clear your mind. Then if you find yourself coming back to reality, zone out again.
Yeah.
However it works for you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I would say to my clients when I was a therapist. It's what I say to my clients when it's what I say the same thing all the time. Whatever the way is in for you. Yeah, Sherry said, I'll try that tonight, Melissa. My bedtime comes a lot sooner than you. The brushing
I don't
teeth.
know. Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to add, so when I was going through the divorce, I found, so you guys remember the show 30 Rock? That was like my favorite thing. I think a lot of people my age, they identify with Liz Lemon, but I did. And I used that. So the divorce obviously was a very, very difficult time. I mean, almost there were times when I didn't want to get up off the couch or out of bed. But I used 30 Rock. So it was like, let me just focus on 30 Rock. And I can tell you they're 23-minute episodes, in case you're wondering. And I would focus on that. And I would remind myself while I'm watching it. And I loved it. So it was easy. Like, be in the moment. It's okay to laugh. Like, I know you know, even the dialogue in my head was like, I know you're feeling bad, but these next 23 minutes are yours. Enjoy this. So was I avoiding the problem? I didn't really feel that way, because then it would end and then I would assess where I was, and it was all about taking notes. So,
and that's why I tell people, wherever it is, seminars, classrooms, wherever, don't get caught up in the formal definition. You know, I'll meet resistance for that, but I'm not going to ever change that.
Right.
I'm never going to change that drum. Whatever your entree is, if it's a TV show, you know, I used to watch Big Bang Theory all the time, and I would carve that time out and I would set it aside. And so whatever it is that gets you through, that's what it needs to be. So, all right. So I think I can see by the turn of your head that our little, our soon to be 5-year-old timer is going off. So.
Yeah, we've kept everybody for about 20 minutes. We don't want to talk your ear off all night. We appreciate you being here and tuning in with us.
We do. And this will go into, hopefully, if I can figure this out, it'll go into our feed. So, but we appreciate all of you being here.
And then, so next week, we're going to do this again. We're going to keep doing this
every Monday.
And we'll share little tips and tools that we do. And as you can see from this, we are not perfect. We've got lives to live. We're coping with the same things. We've got a child. So they're very real world. I've got some parenting tips that I can share. And maybe if you tune in, you might hear something that resonates. And if you don't, that's totally cool too. We don't expect anything. We're just here. We're just showing up.
That's right. And the time change hasn't happened yet. So we are still going to be here 5 p.m. Pacific next Monday. 8 p.m. Eastern. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us. We love seeing you.
All right. Bye.